This is the last section that we need to look at to end up for our next test, and it's about marginal analysis. Now, the business functions review that I've got here, you have got to know these. We had them in, I know, Math 1130. You might have briefly touched it if you had the 1700 series math. But a business function, like I said, we'll have it in the majority of the sections after this, so knowing this will help a lot. So the review, here it goes. If I have a cost function, if you'll notice, this looks a lot like a linear equation, but in this particular part, the M is what's called my variable cost. It changes with respect to how many items, and X in all of these refers to number of items. B is fixed cost. So if they give me the variable cost or marginal cost, it's always my slope, and the B is going to be my fixed. So that's how I find my cost function if it's not given. Revenue function. This little p of x, this is called price demand. That's how the items are sold. That's the amount that they're sold at. So to find your revenue, you have to go number of items times the price of the item. To find profit, you have to have these two. Profit is revenue minus cost. So the first thing we're going to look at is what's called marginal cost function. If C of x is the total cost of producing x items, then the marginal cost function C prime approximates the cost of producing one more item at a production level of x items. It does, I do have the word here, approximates, but what's nice is it's a very, very good approximation, and it's a whole lot faster than finding the exact cost of producing one more item. So in this example, it says the total cost in dollars of producing X portable radios per day is given by this function. Now, we can only use this function as long as my X values are between 0 and 100. So normally we do not use this, but they're just telling you how long this particular function applies to this problem. So it says find the marginal cost at a production level of X radios. You see the word marginal? That means go get the derivative. Now be careful here, depending on the word after marginal, that's what you have to get the derivative of. You might have to find marginal revenue, so you have to have the revenue function. Or you might have marginal profit, so you have to have the profit function in order to get the derivative. But since they give me the cost and they told me to go get the marginal cost, go get the derivative of this and see if you end up with what I've got under my yellow box. And it looks like I should have 100 minus x. Now it says find the marginal cost at a production level of 80 radios and interpret the result. Alright, so if I put 80 in here, it says marginal cost, so it takes me back to my derivative. And if I put 80, it looks like I end up with 20. So let's see if I do. Interpret, well, right here. The derivative approximates the cost of producing one more item at the production level of X items. So we're at a production level of 80 radios. So it looks like my 81st radio will approximately cost about $20. Now when it says find the actual cost of producing the 81st radio, the real true to goodness actual cost, you have to go back to your cost function. If I find out the cost of the 81st, find out the cost of 80, and if I subtract the two, then I should end up with how much the 81st cost. So let me put in 81. Now this is total cost of producing 81 portable radios. That's what I'm after. So it cost $5,819.50 to produce 81 radios. But I only want to know about the 81st. So let's go find out how much 80 costs. Hopefully you've been doing the second enter because it saves a bit of time. Okay, so this is how much it cost for 81 radios. This is how much it cost for 80 radios. And if you can subtract, it looks like the 81st, the actual cost of producing the 81st radio is $19.50. So let's see what I've got. And if you'll notice, 20, very close, very nice approximation. They want us to find C prime of 50 and interpret the result. So if I go up and put 50 in here, it looks like I end up with 50. Okay? Notice it was very quick, didn't hurt. Interpret, it's going to cost $50 to make the 51st radio. There it is. Marginal business functions. Marginal cost function, C prime of X, is the approximate cost of producing one additional unit at a production level X. Marginal revenue function, R prime, is the approximate loss or gain. If I end up with a negative, it would indicate a loss in revenue by producing one additional unit at a production level X. Marginal profit function, P prime of X, is the approximate loss or gain in profit by producing one additional unit at a production level of X. Very, very similar to this, except you're talking about revenue and profit. Now there's just one more set of marginal business applications that we have to look at, and it's called marginal average cost function. You've got to read the words very carefully. Now, I did say earlier, whatever is after the word marginal, this is the function you have to have in hand in order to do the problem. So the average cost function, called C bar, gives the per unit cost of producing X items. It's given by this function. So C bar of X, it's your cost function divided by X. When you divide by X, you're finding the per unit cost. Now, to determine the marginal average cost function, notice my derivative here. You need to first divide cost function by X, simplify. Second, compute the derivative in that order. Now you've got marginal average revenue and marginal average profit functions are found in a similar way. You need to go to page 547, look at those examples, do the homework. If I haven't already, I'll be sending out the review problems for this section. Okay? Thank you.